I come from the position of just a person who is very, very interested in art, its intent, its intrinsic composition, especially pure art, and I use the word pure art not in a hierarchical or a qualitative sense, but in the sense of what it intends to convey. And of course, being a practicing Carnatic musician. And this is the position from which I would like to address this whole theme of today, which will be looking at Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam. And I think it's important that I say that right in the beginning, so you know where I'm coming from. Before actually getting into the subject, I love to look at etymology of words. And I looked up the etymology for the word parallel. We use that word very easily. So I just thought, I think etymology teaches us a lot more than we think it can. And if you look at it like, most likely parallel, also having a mathematical connotation, of course, has a Greek history. And it comes from para, which means alongside, and alos, which means the other. So it has two parts to it. It intends to say, one, it is alongside, that is the two elements, and the other, that it is the other. Now, the moment you say it's the other, you are giving a certain correspondence to the two elements you're talking about, which I thought is very, very, very beautifully said in that word. And it also means that both are extended in the same direction. If you look at it mathematically, both are extending, or the direction of both are on the same direction. Point 3. Then, I won't go into the mathematical side of the definition. And of course, it also means that there's no fluxion between the two. There is no fluxion between the two. That is, they have individual identities, but they are related to each other. That means both of them say similar things or mean to say similar things, yet they do not meet. This is so beautifully put in the simple word parallel. And it is very relevant, I think, when we talk about Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam, whether at all they are completely meeting, or there are parts of it that you can perceive as being part of fluxion, and parts of it which actually set them apart as being the same, yet with individual identities. I'd like to look at today's subject in about 3 broad spectrums. First, I'd like to discuss it in terms of a conceptual basis. Conceptually, what is Bharatanatyam? Conceptually, what is Carnatic music? Secondly, in terms of content, in terms of what goes in to the music, and I'm coming from, like I said, from the Carnatic side, if I may use that term. So I'll be looking at it from the Carnatic side, in terms of content, which will automatically bring in the idea of practitioners and people who have actually brought it along in these years. And finally, in terms of presentation, in terms of what we see as music or what we see as dance. So these are the broad 3 themes on the basis of which I'll be presenting what I'm presenting. If you look at the conceptual basis, there are a lot of challenges with any Indian art form, which you could call classical, pure, or art music, which you put in those categories. There are multiple challenges because of the intrinsic nature of those forms. If you look at Bharatanatyam, this is how I see it. Bharatanatyam presents a context. It presents a story within the context. It presents allied stories within the context. It presents metaphors within the context. But all this is presented through the experience of the sense, which is the emotion. So all this ultimately is in a way part of emotion. So how is this done? This is done through broadly 4 things: space, body, poetry, and music. I always have a problem when both, especially dancers, if I may say so, use the expression of saying dance is so dependent on music. I think that's a ridiculous statement, because they are internal, they are not external. None of these elements that I spoke about are some external things that are given to Bharatanatyam. Whether it is poetry, whether it is music, or whether it is space or body, the fact is the whole is internally integrated, not externally integrated. So the identity of Bharatanatyam itself encompasses this huge body of work. They are not individual parts put together. They are together the identity that we refer to as Bharatanatyam today. So that's how I look at it. Now, what is being conveyed? Now, that's always a challenging question. What is being conveyed in Bharatanatyam? Now, when you ask this question, I've heard so many people say this issue of relevance, for example, is always brought about in terms of what is being conveyed. To me, Bharatanatyam is an abstraction. It's an abstraction of the world of emotions. It is not, and I don't think it is, an imitation of reality. It is an abstraction of the world of emotions. The moment you use the word abstraction, it means it abstracts the idea of the senses into another realm. And I use the word idea of the emotion, not the emotion itself. Because so many times, even in Carnatic music, they'll say, Tyagaraja Kirtana, when he sang this song, he felt this. It is irrelevant whether he felt this when he sang this song. What is relevant is what is the emotion that is there in the song that you experience. It is very important that it's an illusion. Why? First, it's not a delusion, it's an illusion. And it's important it's an illusion because, only because it's an illusion, are you experiencing what you are experiencing with the art, because you know it is not connected with what you are at that moment. 2. The moment you say abstraction, there's something else happening. When you place it in an illusionary plane and you abstract an emotion out of it, the fact is that it connects with a sense of emotion that you experience in life. So there is a sense of connection with reality which you cannot take out. But the connection is only semblance. The connection is semblance, so it is not reality. So the very important part of Bharatanatyam to me is the fact that it is not real. The fact that it is an illusion. And the fact is you experience what you experience only because you know and you are aware when you are watching Bharatanatyam that the whole thing is an illusion. And you are able to connect with the illusion in a sense of detachment with your own reality. To me, this is what Bharatanatyam intends to do. So the question of relevance is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if the poetry is about the bus outside this auditorium or the poetry is about some lover waiting for the beloved in 13th century. Because what is being conveyed is not the bus, or not your interaction with the bus, or not the interaction between the two characters in the 14th century. What is being conveyed is what is the idea of the emotion that is there in both contexts. That's what I think, that's the perspective I would take to Bharatanatyam. This also brings in an important question for me is the feeling of the protagonist being conveyed? In all reviews that I read about Bharatanatyam, I always seem to read people saying it's a great performance because you could feel what the person in that character was feeling at that moment. Is that really relevant? Is a question that I would like to raise. The context is relevant, yes, because the context is what gives you the situation to comprehend the emotion. But is it really relevant that it is a relationship between the two characters, or is it relevant that what is being emoted in that situation is actually being conveyed as an emotional idea? This is just a thought. I'm not saying anything. I'm just raising a thought because I don't see any analysis of dance ever written which is not able to dissociate from this part. In some way getting trapped, and that is why getting trapped with the idea of relevance. If you're not trapped with this question of relevance will never be raised. The reason it's being raised is because in our perception, we are trapped in this. What is Carnatic music? Conceptually, not very different. It's not. I put both classical forms as in terms of pure art. So conceptually, there's not very much different in Carnatic music. We are abstracting. We are doing exactly the same. But what we abstract with are a different set of things. We abstract with raga, we abstract with tala, laya, and syllabic content. I said this other day, I'm using the word syllabic content specifically. I'm not saying sahitya. Because even when you sing a tillana, it has a certain emotional value every time you say tam. Tam, 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 udanitom tananam, tadaratim, nadradritum, tanana, tam, tam, tam. Each tam is different. Each tam conveys something else. Each tam doesn't exist without the melodic sound that you're hearing along with that tam. Unless you understand music like this, you have not understood music, is my opinion.